friend said she did West Side Story in like high school or something, and they made all the kids wear self-tanner.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Bronze face. Hello and welcome to Cleopatra. I'm Christy Bonna.
And I'm Lynn Molly, and we're two Middle Eastern comedy queens digging up the funny from the first generation experience.
Our guest today is an LA-based comic and writer. He wrote on Z-Way, and you might recognize him from the hit show on Netflix, I Think You Should Leave. Please give it up for Ronald Metellus. Yay, yay, yay.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for following directions and giving it up. How are you doing?
I do watch a lot of podcasts where the guests like just force the host force the guest to give themselves a round of applause. Like, do you guys know Drink Champs?
No.
Lynn, it feels like you do know.
No, I don't know. I thought Christy was going to be like, yes, everyone knows. And then I was going to have to lie and pretend that I knew it.
Oh, well, it's a podcast, and there's like, we got to give you your flowers, man. We got to give you your flowers. And then they make
like
people
that.
clap. I think it's really nice.
Maybe we should throw flowers at you, too.
Look at the snake plant behind me.
No. Yeah, we got a lot
Other
of
snake plant in the corner.
Next time we'll get flowers for you.
I know two plant names. One snake plant, mother-in-law tongue.
That's more than I know. I know a pothos and maybe like a Montserrat.
Oh man, you guys.
Christy, we're playing an improv game now.
Yes, and begonias are also a plant name. Can you tell that I do very well under improv pressure?
Not a plant mama. Okay, so this podcast, what we do on it is we go back in time and we explore a little bit about your personal history and folklore. Sometimes we start as far back as grandparents, sometimes parents, wherever you really want to go.
Yeah, so both of my parents immigrated from Haiti. They met in New York, though. So my mom immigrated, and she was sent to a detention center. This was 1980, and Jimmy Carter had lost the presidency. He was like in his last few months of being in office, and they were like, Jimmy, we got these detained migrants here. Like, we can send them back. They can stay here. And Jimmy Carter was like, what do I care?
Oh.
So Jimmy Carter, shout out,
Famously said, "What do I care?"
I'm going back to my peanut farm.
What a legacy.
Wow.
I'm going back to my peanut farm with my really small wife. Do you guys remember that picture where it's like
Yes.
Jimmy Carter and
There's like an optical illusion where his
Yeah.
wife looks significantly smaller, like she's in a different room. I remember this.
yes,
Wow.
those were good times in the presidency. I got real off track. So yeah, Jimmy Carter was like, hey, the migrants can stay. And so then from there, my mom went and that migrant detention center was in Florida. And so then from there, my mom went to New York, where her pastors in Haiti, his wife lived in New York. And so my mom went to her house to stay. And she was like, I got too many people staying here already.
Oh, no. How long was your mom in the detention center?
A couple of months.
Oh, wow.
The detail that always strikes me is that she arrived there and she saw people that she knew in Haiti that she hadn't seen in months, and there's no obviously there is no social media. So in her head, she's just like, they're in America, living their lives. And and then you meet back up with people and they're like,
so
being
this
detained.
is where you've been for the last few months.
Yeah. This is where you've been. And so, yeah, my mom was very fortunate a couple of times. One with the social worker that she was assigned kind of helped her get on her feet. She started working at a garment factory, putting zippers on the clothes. I went to the Migration Museum in the UK, and there's this whole section just dedicated to migrants and garment factories, which was really fascinating. So yeah, she did that. She didn't know English when she immigrated, and so she took classes at there was I forget what denomination of Christianity it was, but it was a church that was giving free English classes. Churches should, I feel if you want people to be a part of your religion, Offer them
Free English.
free English classes.
Yeah.
And screenwriting classes. People will show up.
Is this a Scientology reference?
No, this is just if you want people to join, offer free screenwriting lessons.
Build a resume in the basement
Yeah.
and join the Lord. Yes.
Yeah, we could start a cult this way.
We haven't started a cult on this pod yet. I think this is the
I think
episode.
this is some good. Well, all we need is a little bit of seed money, and we can do this.
I feel comfortable teaching English as a second language. I could probably teach screenwriting classes as well. So
Phenomenal. And I'll tell everyone how to build a resume.
And I can teach Middle Eastern cooking classes.
All right. That's it.
So,
Business
that's our
idea
cult.
official.
I think we got some converts in that. I mean, they're just not offering. The churches aren't offering what they used to offer.
Yeah, no Corvettes.
What's that a reference
I
to?
don't know. I'm making these up. I just
Maybe
feel
like
like
a
it would be
a
a
mega
church with
church.
Corvettes. I would
Yes.
go. Come on.
Yes. Are you going to take notes?
Yeah, I not of like you or anything, or just like stray ideas and thoughts that I have.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, me
I've
too.
never had anyone take notes during a podcast before. That's great. I respect it. I am an avid note taker as well.
Honestly, I feel like we should be taking notes because sometimes I say stuff and I'm like, I'm so funny. And then I forget later and that could all go in my set.
Absolutely. There's absolutely no way to otherwise see what was said.
Yeah, we don't have cameras. We don't have.
any way to
We
play
don't
this
have
back.
any audio recording.
So, okay, your mom was working in a garment factory. And what about your dad? What was your dad doing?
Yeah, see, I'm not as in touch with my dad these days.
Got it.
So the origin story
Question
is a
mark.
bit blurrier. I do know one of the things that's interesting about my dad. He's like a love child. Is that acceptable phrase?
I have not heard it canceled on Twitter yet.
Is that bad to say?
I mean, I think that's fine.
Yeah, born out of wedlock. So my dad's dad was a lawyer, and he was like pretty relatively well off in Haiti. And so my dad grew up with like his half siblings. They went to private school in Haiti. Everything I say in Haiti needs to be emphasized.
Yes.
Because considerable privilege relatively
In Haiti.
in Haiti. So then his half siblings, they all got sent to Montreal. There's I would say the majority of like black people in Montreal are Haitian. Don't quote me on it.
Is it the French
It's
connection?
it's the French speaking.
Yeah.
My dad's, I guess you would call her like his stepmom. She was living in Montreal, and so she sent for all of her kids to do like college in Montreal. And so it's like for the most part, they're all still there. Like I have 8 aunts and uncles in Montreal. I have like dozens of cousins in Montreal. And so they wanted to send for my dad, but just like Canada was like, this is not your biological son. So,
Oh.
so that's how my dad ends up in America is he wants to go to Montreal first. He ends up in America. I think his mom my grandmother ends up immigrating first. It was my grandmother who introduced my mom to my dad. Just shows you like how small like the immigrant circles are
Right.
in certain cities.
And this was in New York?
This was in New York. Yeah. And my dad was living, I feel like as my mom tells it, my dad was living with his mom, and he was just like he was like rushing the relationship along. Like he was like very ready to like not live at home anymore to have a wife. He was like very like Love Is Blind coded. It's like
Let's go. I'm ready.
I've always pictured myself as a husband, and now
They met through a wall.
yeah, truly,
Great.
truly, yeah. So he was like, yeah, I'm ready to be in it, which later on becomes quite ironic because he really was not ready, but.
Much like Love is Blind, most of these people do not know what an actual relationship entails.
I love that you reference Love is Blind as if it's not also much like the entire world.
No. Just Love is Blind. Everyone has a unique obstacle that they...
No. Divorce rates are at 1%, but divorce rates on Love is Blind are much higher. It's truly only that reality show where people don't know what's happening. But yeah, so then they meet in New York. I am the baby. They have my brother in 88, and then I'm born in another time, another year.
Yes.
And
We'll
in
never
Brooklyn,
know.
I don't talk about I don't talk about my age in public anymore.
Oh, as you should not. This is Los Angeles.
I can't.
The WGA, because I did a program through them, they handed out this book, and one of the chapters in the book, it's how to navigate the writer's room, and one of the chapters is about how you should hide your age. And this woman, she was saying that basically she was having a hard time getting jobs, and then she like stepped up the way she dressed, and she like dyed her gray hairs, and then she started getting more jobs. And she was saying that the answer that she always gives if someone asks how old you are, you say, old enough to know not to answer that, which I think makes you sound 3,000.
Yeah, that does sound like something like Dick Van Dyke would say. Like it's incredibly like jazz era answer.
Old enough to remember Jimmy Carter saying, let him do it. Doesn't matter.
You mentioned the packet in another episode. The what?
The packet?
The WGA
guidebook.
guidebook.
The guidebook, yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
really?
the Marlena
Yes.
episode probably.
I do really worry that I just tell the same story every episode, and I'm like, here's something brand new
Our
you've
avid
never
followers
heard.
are like, we get it, Lynn.
No, you
We're in a
didn't mention-
writer's program.
You didn't mention that anecdote though.
Oh, great.
But the book is in the lore.
It's
Okay.
okay.
yes.
We do have recurring things that do come up because unfortunately I don't have a good enough memory to lie a unique past every single episode. I can't just like out of whole cloth be like, oh yes, this other time I was in the 7th Infantry in Paris and you know.
But y'all do. I think that came up before where you're just like, one of the reasons why you will repeat questions is to see like the similarities in stories. Like when on Marlena, on her episode, she talks about I forget it was her dad that was in like a work camp.
Yes.
My uncle was in a work camp, which I didn't know. I don't know if you guys experienced that, but like I'll ask my mom like the same question about her immigration experience, and then each time I'll get like one detail will be added.
0.0001 more information.
My mom just told me about like her experiences like living in like crack era New York City. Like cause I was born in Brooklyn and then we moved to Long Island. And she was just like, yeah, they're just like people doing drugs in my lobby. And I'm just like, wait, what? You've never said that before. But just like slowly because it's 1980.
Having been born in Brooklyn, do you feel like you are the original hipster?
I do, yeah. I mean,
They should bow down to you.
Of a hipster of a certain age that
Yes,
will
it's
never
true.
ever divulge.
yeah, anywhere between 20 and 45
Absolutely.
in that demographic.
Check all the boxes for every demographic.
And this is not to fish because we don't talk about ages, but I truly cannot tell how old either of you are.
We are both 21 years old.
I actually elected Carter myself. So I look great.
You worked on his staff.
Yeah, I was actually campaigning, knocking door to door.
I did realize that I'm officially would take an art of flower arranging years old, if that ages me.
I think that's actually a pretty cool universal thing.
In the like era of like ClassPass, like that could be like a ClassPass thing.
Ooh, do you think flower arranging is on ClassPass?
Only one way to find out. Let's hear a word from our sponsor, ClassPass. Just kidding. They're not sponsoring us. But what
Yet.
what a world that would be, how seamless it would have been. My dad first moved from Egypt to New York in the 70s, and it was also a notoriously dangerous time that he didn't talk about a lot, but then would like sprinkle in some hilarious, terrifying details about what it was like. And yeah, it is fascinating. So you basically grew up in New York then.
Yes. I mean, I lived such like a cloistered childhood that it's really hard to say. So like first 6 years we're in Brooklyn, then we go to Long Island. But the only thing about Long Island that I really remember is like going to Jones Beach. Other than that, it's like kind of in one. it's like a fuzzier memory, you know, because like no sleepovers. Like I didn't have like a lot of friends, like neighborhood kid friends when I was very young. It really wasn't until I moved to Philadelphia when I was like 10.
Oh, okay.
Second and third grade between then when I started to like, I don't know, that I was like outside. You know what I mean?
Was there a reason you were so closed off in Long Island?
It's an island.
Yeah, Shutter Island. I just think it's like immigrant like weariness around like letting your kids like experience things.
Fair.
Just,
yeah.
I think
Also,
it's
if you're under 10, they're not. It's not the 1920s where they're like, "Go play, kids. Be home by supper."
Some people were like that though.
That's true.
Like,
You're
some
right.
people are just like play when those street lights come on.
Yeah.
Then you come back home, but that was just never the case. I mean, like that's also like that's how my mom grew up. Like she didn't really. I talk about like my mom doesn't really have a concept of leisure. Like, and she's retired now, but like.
And what did she do?
She was a nursing assistant. She had a lot of odd jobs though.
Okay.
Before that, she did like home care. She was like a chef at one point, so she has worked a lot of different jobs.
Wow.
But was a nursing assistant for like 20 years. Retired a couple of years ago, but like she's only now expressed interest in like going on vacation, going on like she went on a cruise ship like a couple of months ago.
Go mom.
Good for her.
But it's, you know, like she didn't go to like Carnival when she was living in Haiti. It was very much like you go to school. My grandma had a store, like you help at the store, you're home. Again, these are the things like I'm slowly getting to hear like more of like their childhood as like my mom and my aunt as they get older and as I get older, but like I don't get the sense that she was like a cool kid.
It's funny how uninteresting they think their stories are. I'm always like begging for these details. And they're always like, I wore a yellow dress that day. And I'm like, that's not.
That's not the detail
I found out my mom had a pet goat a couple of months ago. So, okay, so my mom came over. She commuted from Philly to LA for her birthday. Again, anywhere between 50 and 60 years old. We don't know.
Okay.
The birth certificates are burned.
Wow.
But yeah, she came to visit for her birthday, and then it also coincided with the Super Bowl. And so I had a Super Bowl party. My downstairs roommate's dog was there, Ada, who we love. And so Ada's hanging out, and she's just like, Mom was just like, wow, her head, she looks just like a goat. I'm like, all right. She looks just like a goat. And she's like, yeah, we had a pet goat growing up. She says this to my roommate. I've never heard this story.
Right. Parents always share more with people they don't know.
She's never told me that. She was like, my mom bought a goat with intention to eat the goat, to kill the goat. Mm-hmm. But it turned out the goat was pregnant. And so she was like, we can't.
We had no choice but to befriend it.
We can't, it's like.
She's a mama.
It's not, it's inhumane to kill this pregnant goat. And so they like, the goat would just hang out. It was like Banshees of Inisherin or something. Like the goat would be inside the house. The goat would they would feed the goat random things.
Wow.
And then one day the goat wasn't there anymore. And then they were like, my mom and my aunt were like inconsolable. And they were just like, so my grandma, they're like, what happened to the goat? What happened to the goat? And my grandma sold the goat because she didn't have the heart to kill it. She sold the goat. And so that my mom went to the market doing like, we're going to buy this goat back. With what money? I do not know. And by the time they like went to the market, the goat was already.
Oh,
Oh no!
My heart.
What about? Did it have it given
dead.
birth?
It must have.
Wow.
It must have.
They're like, we're gonna find this goat's child, and then
The child probably also.
We have referenced this on the pod, but I did have a friend who went offline and moved onto a farm, and now she has tons of goats. And I guess when it was like really rainy in LA, like a hurricane weather, they tried to bring in like some of the goats, and the goats just like hated being inside. They are like, we are outside pets.
Were they acting out? Were they knocking
They like
things
didn't know
over?
how to behave, and they just like couldn't sit still. They like couldn't sleep.
they couldn't sit through a full episode of Dateline. They were so awful.
Yeah.
Terrible
And
guests.
they're like, okay, go back to the hurricane, I guess. Have fun.
That's wild.
Relatable.
So Philly, how was growing up there? What was the neighborhood like? Did you have another Haitian community, or was it just different groups of people? Tell us about it.
There's a big Haitian community in Philly, specifically in Olney, which is where I grew up. Olney, Longcrest, the northeast of Philadelphia. There's like 5 Haitian barbershops like within less than a mile of each other, which is just so many.
Yeah.
I guess if you count salons and stuff. So yeah, there's a big Haitian community in Philly.
Philly is so diverse. It's so wonderful. It's like, I feel like one of the last cities in America that's like cool and diverse and like livable. And I don't know, I feel like maybe I should stop talking about how great Philly is. Don't move there.
Yeah, I know.
That's my exit plan.
Don't ruin it. If you are white, do not move to Fishtown.
Edit this out, Christy.
There's enough. We have enough of you.
It's freezing. You'll hate it.
Yeah, you'll hate it. The street. Well, it's interesting because I think like we think about neighborhoods from like a kind of broad strokes thing of like, well, this is a white neighborhood, this is a Korean neighborhood, whatever. But I think like my experience in the Northeast, it was really block by block. Like certain streets were just like no white people lived. We moved to a street where I would say was majority white when we moved in like the year 2000. But then I guess like, 25 years later, I don't think there is a majority anymore. It's like it's much more diverse. I think our presence there also like fastened that process.
So what was your friendship circle like? Was it pretty integrated? Were you mostly friends with the Haitian community? Did you have like the...
Yeah, that's a good question. If I was being like babysat then I was like sent to like a Haitian family. And so like in my private life, and then we spent a lot of time like my mom, my aunt, and like my first cousin who was also their age, they kind of all had kids around the same age. I don't know if you guys had this experience, but like there's like me and my brother, but then like my first cousins we are like identical in age, lined up with each other. And so we just spent a lot of time
like
with
built-in siblings.
Yeah, we spent
That's
a lot of
nice.
time like with family. So there was that. And then like my neighborhood, so like my block was like diverse in the sense of we're like, okay, I have white friends on my street, but my school that I went to was like predominantly Black American. And then there's like a Catholic school where like most of like the white kids went, but I didn't go to that school. So it was kind of like, depending on the context, was like what my friend group was like.
Cool. So do you speak French?
No.
Did you take it in school?
No, I had a chance too. I went to high school for international affairs. And so foreign language was a requirement, but I took Spanish.
We've had a whole conversation on this podcast about how that is probably the more useful language to have learned
in this country, but
Yeah.
there are many uses for French otherwise, as the internet has really told us and got very upset.
I think if you do a breakdown, though, of population in the world, I think Spanish is spoken more by a greater population. I think Mandarin is the most spoken.
I'll take your word for it. That tracks for me.
Our church will also teach Mandarin.
So you studied international affairs in high school, and then did you stick around Philly for college, or what did you do after that?
I went to college in New Mexico. I went to College of Santa Fe in New Mexico.
Ooh, that's like a big cultural shift.
Yeah.
It was a big shift. Yeah, it was. I mean, yeah, there are not a lot of Black people in Santa Fe. I would say that is still true.
But there is a lot of teal jewelry.
Yeah, turquoise was everywhere.
Turquoise, excuse me.
Same color, but different element. You're right.
Excuse me, yes.
That is so funny, though, because that is also the first thing I think about.
That and Georgia O'Keeffe. Isn't she from there? Or there's a
Yeah,
museum there?
her museum is in Santa Fe. Beautiful museum.
Yeah.
What did you study?
Creative writing,
Ooh, that's what
Yeah.
I have a degree in.
poetry, and nonfiction. Did you
I
have
specialized
a track?
in fiction.
Fiction.
Yeah,
Nice.
short stories. Very lucrative.
Who was like? I was talking to someone who did their MFA, and like I realized like my taste in literature is like pretty concentrated in the years that I was studying
Absolutely.
creative writing, and so who were the?
I'm still stuck in Amy Hempel / Amy Bender. Those
Yeah,
are my
they were
huge.
huge.
And like now, is that what they're talking about in MFA
Probably
programs?
not.
And I bring them up to anyone who did not get an MFA within like those years, and they're like, I have no idea who those writers are.
I really like Amy Bender.
Me
Oh,
too.
that's so interesting. I didn't know that creative writing programs would be like, here's who we care about right now.
Yeah, it's trendy.
Mm.
The Flannery O'Connor anthology came out like my first year of college. That was huge.
We were reading a lot of A Good Man Is Hard to Find. I read that story in every single class I took.
It's a big deal.
He's hard. He's difficult. It's really
You
tricky
can't
to
track him
find. I
down.
can't find him.
You can't track him down. Roberto Bolano had died, and I think 2666 had come out. Like, you know, again, we don't want to put a year down, but
No.
we don't want to put a year down.
Never.
For the sleuths in the audience.
If you want
though.
a sleuth, you can get some of the lore.
If someone watched enough of this podcast, I think they could math together my exact age. But they would be obsessed with me. And thank you.
Yeah, so yeah, I went to Santa Fe, did creative writing, but that school too was like a big transplant school. It was like 80%. My friends there, a lot of them were from New England, so
Santa Fe seems like a very romantic place to like look at the sunset and write poetry.
it is. I mean, it's so naturally beautiful.
Yeah.
Like would I live in Santa Fe? I probably would not live in Santa Fe, but it's I'd visit. It's like, yeah, it's a gorgeous place.
Do you know what's so funny about the fiction thing? This reminds me, I worked at an indie video store in college. So I like know all the movies that came out between like a certain, now I don't want to say the dates, you've got it in my head, between like these 2 years. And for some reason, I like know the exact cover of them. And it's just so funny how, yeah, we can get like stuck in these times.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing, because I know you guys talk about like American cultural like touch points or touchstones. When I got to college, I didn't know any actors' names other than like Tom Cruise. And then by the time I left college, I like knew who Jeff Goldblum was. Like I knew all these character actors and things. I just had no, like, I was pop culture literate, but just not in that way. And then I got there and I was like, oh, that's very important to these people. Like character actors are very important.
These people being 18 to 21-year-olds.
No, just like white people,
Yeah.
middle class. They really like character.
Well, is it just, I think it's two things for us. They do love a Jeff Goldblum.
White
You're
people
right.
love a Margot Martindale.
I mean,
Or
if you
yeah.
go like if you were to go to like Kensington in Philadelphia, you go to like a working class neighborhood in Philadelphia, and then start asking about like Margot Martindale. They're like, "What the fuck are you talking
What the
about?"
fuck are you talking about?
But then you go to Swarthmore or like, you know what I mean? Or you go to like Lower Merion. There's like, oh yeah, yes, Abby has a house.
Every other like dorm room has Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind like framed on the wall.
It's just very important.
I feel like two parts of the reason why those didn't hit us is one, the East Coast. Like when I was growing up, I didn't know film was a career, like film and TV. Because like on the East Coast, you're like Broadway, like I'm going to be a theater, I'm going to write poems. And then also like immigrant parents, I feel like have like very little like knowledge of pop culture. So I feel like those are things that sometimes I have like a huge like block in my brain. Like I only learned what Tom Petty was like 5 years ago.
I couldn't name you one Tom Petty song. David Bowie, I don't.
Yeah.
There are certain like gaps that I just have because like that's not what was being like played in my house.
I dated enough white men to eventually learn like what a like Simon and Garfunkel is.
I caught up. You know what's interesting though is my mom like did like who is it, like Paul Simon, Peter Gabriel,
Phil Collins.
Phil Collins, yeah.
Yeah, the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost of white male, like 80s, 90s.
That radio station
70s.
was on in my mom's car. So I knew the songs.
Yeah.
But I didn't know like, I didn't know that's Paul Simon, but I knew those songs because my mom would play them. It's just interesting, like what your parents kind of
expose you to.
Yeah, I just feel like even as a first generation immigrant, now it's just like there's some things that I pick up on in pop culture that are important to me, and then others that I just have complete blind spots about. Like my mom is very invested in the royal family, which I think is consistent with a lot of like Caribbean immigrant parents.
That's so interesting. I have a neighbor who is Kenyan, and she talks about how colonization was the best thing that happened to her.
That's wild.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Your neighbor is Gerard Carmichael. It's like such a comedy store premise.
It is so true. And I was like, I'm sorry, come again. And then we'll go around walks around the neighborhood. We'll like run into each other. And she was talking about how like, because there was a school that the missionaries set up, they saved her from like getting a female circumcision and all these like things.
Wow.
And anyway, but the reason why I absolutely had a reason why I brought this up. It was because we were talking about.
Is she into the royal family?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. We're talking about colonization. Yeah. And so she was talking about the royal family, and I was just like, why is everyone so fucking obsessed with the royal family? And I think that's probably what it is like you really internalize it as like a beacon. Even that's what I loved about what The Crown did with Mohammed Al Fayed, like the way that he deified this monarchy and how he wanted so badly to be embraced by British society.
Well, there were like less, like, because now it's like what, like 43 million people have over 1 million followers on social media. Like, I don't think they had like this huge, isn't it wild? They didn't have like a huge wealth of celebrities back then. I feel like the only celebrities my parents probably heard about were like the royal family.
That's what my mom says. Like,
Yeah.
my mom loved Diana because she was always on TV. Like Schwarzenegger, there's like certain people that were just omnipresent in the 80s, and I guess like, you know, caught
like
my mom's attention.
my parents bring up Danny DeVito often. I feel like he's like a staple.
He is a staple.
Yeah.
And he is the best celebrity on the whole.
I once had
whole
dinner
planet.
right next to him and his wife. It was wild. LA, baby.
Yeah.
I was listening to this podcast. It was actually, you hate when people bring up other podcasts.
Oh my gosh. But I love when someone references something I
Ronald's
said on
done
another
So
episode.
much homework. Okay, we get it. You did your homework. Well done.
Yeah. Truly, I don't even have to mention being an immigrant child because clearly I want like a gold star.
You're amazing. You did so well.
I want an A so badly.
You won the podcast.
You're actually on the honor roll of this podcast, and we're so delighted. Your plaque is in the mail.
But so one of the host theory is that there's not that they're like no one's famous anymore, and like he brought up like Taylor Swift and like Kate Middleton as like some of the only really famous people anymore in terms of people who are like everyone knows. And I was like, I don't know if that's true. Do you think that's?
I think to me, I think fame is starting to get diluted. Like we were just talking about this, how we were at an open mic and we saw this person who was totally unhinged and we thought he was just someone who walked off the street and did comedy. And then he hit me up on social media and he has like 25K followers. And I was like, nothing is real. Nothing is real anymore.
Yeah, well, you don't ever really know. I mean, you can do some sleuthing and see if people bought followers. I just think that like fame, what does that even mean anymore? And it's just like, same with influence. What does that mean either? So I agree that there's probably very few like universally influential people, like to the point where like, fine, if you're Beyonce and Taylor and you can affect the United States economy in a span of 3 months with your tour.
But we all do have tiny influence that we don't even realize. Like if I put something in my stories that I'm just like, oh, this is like a cool falafel place. Like literally people hit me up and they're like, oh, I just won. It was so awesome. And I'm like, did I?
Whoa.
Yeah,
Did
you're
that-
a micro-influencer.
Did that work?
Influencer
What?
Lynn.
And like, I'm not like trying to.
More like Linfluencer.
Brand it.
Love it. But what we were, backing up to like colonialism. There is like a Stockholm syndrome-y type of, because like my mom will also be like, oh, King Charles is on the news. And I'm like, fuck that guy. Like, but Allah yarhamhu with respect to the cancer diagnosis.
Yes, of course. Her Highness.
We wish all of their royal highnesses.
Is it William who's married to Meghan?
Harry.
His Harry's so the King Charles coronation, my mom wakes up. I happen to be visiting home. My mom wakes up at 4 a.m. She's like, yeah, I woke up to watch the coronation. You can tell Harry doesn't want to be there. He's in regular clothes.
Oh, Harry showed up.
Harry showed up in street clothes. And so
yes, Harry.
In plain clothes, like the Sound of Music. He showed up in drapes.
in a robe and bath slippers. It's like, you could tell Harry didn't want to be there, but when they talked about his mom, he was crying, and I was like, well, did you like it? And she goes, no, I didn't really care for it. Just like,
she watched the whole thing.
You woke up at 4 a.m. and watched the coronation for an hour, just like, not really for me.
What's so funny about that too is like, you don't need to watch it live. Like you could watch it online later. So the fact that your mom set an alarm is so funny.
Yeah, it is. It's still appointment television for her.
So we're going to ask some questions, unless...
Wait, the one thing we missed is your journey to LA.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, my journey to LA.
Sorry.
This is my second time living in Los Angeles. So the first time after college, I moved. It was still called Rap Genius at the time, but I got a job working at Rap Genius, and I was living in an incubator house. I was like living where I worked. It was a very odd time.
You were like the original, what is it, influencer houses?
I was in a Vine house, but for Rap Genius.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was that fun?
Yeah, I mean, I would.
You have to be in your 20s for that.
Yeah.
Which we all still are.
I mean, it's one of those things where like I was not really sure like how money worked then. And so you're not really like hip to like, oh, this is kind of exploitative and like odd. Yeah,
there's no sense of that. You're just like, oh, cool, I'm in LA. I'm working for this. It has rap in it and genius and cool.
Yeah, it's like you get to do what a thing you like for a living. I mean, I like music. I liked writing about music. So it was like, well, I feel like my basic needs are met in that way. You get to meet like cool musicians, and so in that way it was great. Also, like, I still have friends from that time in my life who I'm so glad to have met. So it's hard to look back and like be like, oh man, I hated all of that. Honestly, it was like mostly a positive experience. So, but it's, it's just complicated by.
It was like real world, but without the cameras.
It was, yeah. There was a time where we were approached by a reality TV producer, but like it didn't come to be.
They'll do they approached my gym once, I remember, and they're like, should we make a reality TV show about this? And everyone was like, no.
Is there anything like special about your gym?
It's like a boutique gym, and it's like a lot of like really hot people go there because it's right in West Hollywood. I think they wanted it to be more dramatic than it was. And everyone was like, we're just here to work out. I don't know what you want.
Lynn is on the tricep machine again.
And she's not letting me work in between sets. What a selfish bitch.
And she just has her headphones in, and you see me trying to talk to you.
And I know those aren't noise canceling. I know you can hear me.
I know you can hear me.
Carrie, I'm working too hard. So then you left LA.
I left LA.
And where'd you go?
I went back to Philly. I've lived in a lot of different cities in like my adult life. I've lived in New York. I've lived in Chicago, obviously Philadelphia, and then now this is my second time in LA. This time, move for the biz,
Yep.
Yeah.
You gotta move for the biz.
And how long have you been here since this second time?
It will be 2 years in September.
Yay!
So, yeah.
Okay, welcome.
And then because I know you're doing stand-up now, but have you been doing stand-up the whole time you've been writing, or has stand-up been a more recent development?
I did stand-up for like X amount of years. And when I started writing, I kind of put it on the back burner.
It's really hard to do both at once.
Yeah, I've been realizing that as I've been like doing more stand-up now, where I'm just like, oh, these like writing like goals that I have in terms of like, oh, I got to write this feature. I have to write that. I'm like, why am I not doing them? It's like, oh, because my nights and then the next morning when I'm like reviewing my notes over trying to make edits, like it's so all encompassing.
With stand-up or writing?
Stand-up.
Yeah, okay.
And then on the other end, writing, I'm just like, you want to dedicate your whole brain to an idea and just, well, I don't know. I have like a bit of a masochistic writing process where I do just kind of like pace and like curse at myself.
I don't think that's too off the rails. I think that's pretty standard.
Yeah. So it is hard to balance both. When I started writing full time, I didn't really do stand up at all. Then it also helped that the pandemic happened, and so it's a pretty easy decision for me not to do stand up.
And you were working remotely then?
I was working remotely then. And then I was doing stand up, took a pretty long break, and then have been doing it again in like the last couple of years.
That's interesting because I feel like most people start doing stand up to get the TV writing job. But I had kind of the same journey where I started stand up to get into a writer's room, got into a writer's room, and then I was like, oh no, I actually liked stand-up. It wasn't just to get here. Like, and then I would see all my friends like doing shows, and I was like in the room, but it's too much on your brain. Like if I'm working on a pilot, like I notice like my mic like attendance goes down, and it's like I want to be able to do them both, but it's like I feel like you can only stand-up takes to be good at stand-up. You really just have to be doing stand-up all the time. So I just don't know how to
I used to kind of make fun of like the comedians who would just like do 3 mics in a night, and now I've kind of become that comedian because it's just like, well, I need the one to get the nerves out, and then the second one I'm like, okay, I riff that thing. Is this riff viable? And then the third one, you have to get greedy and see if you can pull the trick off again. But I don't know. It's just been a way to divide my time where I'm like, I can't do 1 mic every day of the week, but maybe I can do like 3 Wednesday and like 3 Monday, and I'll have like some kind of like data set to go off of. But it requires so much time and energy.
Did you just say you have a data set to go off of? What's that? Are there spreadsheets?
No.
Are you spreadsheeting your stand-up comedy career? No. And if so, I want to hear about this.
No, I don't. It's just you're just going to different audiences, just seeing it's become like a part of my stand-up, but I don't have a very relatable life. My life is like, I don't know exactly how I got to the point that I'm at now, but it's just not, I don't think it's something that like necessarily like other people relate to on the face of it.
Yeah. That doesn't mean it can't be funny. I mean, we met up incidentally at a mic and very much enjoyed each other's sets, or we're at least pretending very well to. And I also think it really also just depends on like who's in the room, you know? Like
a lot depends on that, yeah.
So I think, unfortunately, a lot of the stuff I've been doing, I think, is like maybe too well crafted for LA. And
everyone's dad's a surgeon.
Everyone's dad is a plastic surgeon.
I feel like I just think about we had Selma Hindi on the podcast, and she was saying she has this friend who's a white woman, and Selma was saying that sometimes she gets so jealous because this white woman, all her material is relatable. It's white woman comedy. It's for everyone. It's universal. But her comedy is very specific. It's about her taking her hijab off and like leaving Islam, and but then she got stopped on the street by an Indian American woman who was like, "I've been following you, and you're so powerful, and thank you for."
That's incredible.
So there is, you'll find it, but it does. I often feel like that sometimes I'll do all my Middle Eastern material in a very white room. Santa Barbara, and then be like, "Oh no, I should have done my Patagonia jacket jokes.
Yeah,
I should have done them."
So that's what I mean by data, where I'm just like, this experience feels like very second nature to me. But then I'll say it and I'll just be like, "Oh, I'm a couple of like I'm going too far. I need to like rewind and like bring people along with me." And it's about like finding the ways to like bridge that gap.
A talented comedian who I don't know if you know, Alex Hooper. He's been around forever. So funny. He once told me, I remember when I was still early on, he was like, comedy won't really click until you find your audience. And once you find your audience, that's when everything falls into place, because they're there specifically for what you have to give, and not everyone's gonna be that audience.
Yeah, I truly cannot wait. I really cannot wait.
Are you their audience? It's me, Christy.
Yeah, I cannot wait until I have a show and it's just like my people. That'd be fantastic. Like you have that with your show, right?
I will say it has been very game changing. The one thing that's hard though is I've gotten so used to Hilarious Habibis, which is all like first generation Arab Americans, very similar experience to mine. Everything I say makes sense to them. I don't have to explain anything. But then like now when I do other shows, I'm like, well, this landed better on Habibis, so.
Yeah, no, I get upset.
Yeah.
I lash out.
Yeah.
I can't imagine you lashing out at an audience. That's maybe just the disappointment that becomes that you like proverbially turning the gun on yourself. I do that a lot too. Just like getting mad at myself for like,
I do beat myself up.
Yeah. What do you do to like get yourself out of those spaces?
Medicate.
Meditate. Let's do it.
Yeah, medicate. Exercise unfortunately works.
Oh, a big fan of exercise in this house.
Yeah. It's funny, like the person I become after I work out, and then then the next morning I'm like, look at all these emails that I have to respond to now, because I had all this like workout dopamine going and serotonin going, and now people are just like, oh, it sounds great. I'm like, oh no.
You're just like committing to things.
That was a different person. That wasn't me.
Post-workout, Christy agreed to do a lot of things. And now the next day, Christy, who hasn't worked out, is like, what the hell?
Workout dopamine regret is real. It's like when you drink and then like say too many things to people, and you're like, oh no.
I was dopamining.
Who did I invite to drinks last night? Who did I say we should do a short film together?
We're going on a girls' trip.
No, I have to do that.
I had way higher hopes for life yesterday. So we're going to pivot to some questions, if that's okay. But you know all the questions already because you got an A and did all your homework. And
So one of the questions I'm not prepared for, but the other ones I am.
okay, we'll find out which one that is.
That's a very loaded riddle for us to unravel.
Cleopatra saw herself as a living goddess. When was the last time you felt supernatural? Preferably not on stage, but if it's a stage thing, then fine. Or do you have any useless talents?
You know, this is the question that I thought I wasn't prepared for now, but as you were, I do have an answer. So, I golf.
Cool.
That is a useless talent.
It is.
Also, we love to see people of color on the golf course.
Yes.
Let's mix it up.
I really do absolutely support that. And I love
really
that.
want to learn how to play golf just so it's like me and the white male execs. And it's like, what up?
I just want to
I'm
ruin
here.
people's time but with my presence. I don't want there to be any safe spaces for business deals to happen without me. Sorry, go ahead.
So, you know, the people talk about first tee jitters. This is your first shot of the day. And so we talk about like me not being relatable. And I'm just like, everyone knows about first tee jitters. And they're both like, laugh in my face.
Right, that's
They're
right.
like,
First tee jitters
like-
in the book right now.
what are you talking about? No, we don't know about that.
Everybody knows about first
Everyone knows. So I was, so I was on the first tee, and there was a jam on the first tee. There was like a foursome. There was a dad golfing with his two sons, and so everyone is like, there's a line forming behind me on the tee. So that's like pressure is mounting, right? Like everyone is watching you, and they don't want you to be, this guy's gonna hold up. So this was
Performance anxiety, yeah.
Performance anxiety. Oh, when I tell you, straight as an arrow. Straight as an arrow
love
onto
it.
the green.
Light
And
as
then
a feather, stiff as a board.
And you get to like, one thing about like golf is there's a lot of like faux modesty. It's, oh, thanks.
You kind of look around and you're like, oh, don't.
Everyone's like, oh, great shot.
Don't thank me.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
Oh, what are you gonna do?
you get to just like look back and just give a little tip of the cap. Just, So
I would have the least chill in the world. I would be like, did you guys see that?
I was like, I've been golfing for 4 years. Like 2 years in, I'm just like jumping. I'm like, that's incredible. But now I'm chill now.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Just a real quick, like Tiger Woods, like.
So it was a little short. I could have hit that a little bit better. It was a little thin.
It's like the bowling phenomenon where you have to like turn around and do something. And it's like,
It's exactly
there's
that.
nothing like not cringe I can
Yes.
do. Because you can't just turn around after doing well and be like,
Yeah.
Then you look
If you're,
insane.
if you're not doing finger guns at somebody, you're a sociopath. You cannot just. You have to celebrate your wins.
Yeah.
Amazing. I'm so
I
excited for you.
felt my friend called me, and she's a golfer as well. She called me, and I was like,
She's like, I heard about it.
it's like
Everyone's
talking about it. I was like, you picked the perfect time. Cause I was on cloud nine then. So that was the last time I felt like incredible.
That's so cute. I
don't
love
know
that.
why, but that story is like so satisfying to me. I can like go to sleep. I just feel so happy and complete knowing that's how that story ended.
Oh, and then we all felt good about ourselves. The end.
And then I three putt bogey, but it's okay.
I don't know what that means.
By context,
yeah.
that sounds like it wasn't a not good thing.
It's
Christy, we have to get into golf.
I have to get it. If
This
I
is
don't find
bad.
out what a 3-putt bogey is in the next 2 hours, I'm gonna self-destruct.
Also, are we wrong about this? Are there like diverse people and women at the golf range
course. I will.
club?
The
course.
driving range that I go to in Philadelphia is like very diverse. It's run by a Korean family. There's a lot of Korean golfers there. I would say it's like a mix of like Korean, black people, white people, but there's also like age diversity. And so you'll see like 18-year-old, 25-year-old, and then like an 80-year-old, which I mean, there are not a lot of scenes or spaces that I'm in where there's like that much like variety in terms of ages. So that's diverse. I think like if I were to go to a country club, no, you know.
Right.
So there's like
No, that's
like
true. Not every golf course or driving range is a country club.
Okay, next question. Cleopatra was the queen of luxury. What is a bougie item you never skimp on?
well, vintage fashion as I'm
Yeah, you
I'm
do.
displaying right
Ooh,
now.
yeah, this is a good look.
My goodness. Yeah, there was a time I always liked fashion in high school, and I just feel like there was more like, I don't know, maybe it was the era that I grew up in, but I just think that like fashion as a form of self-expression, and I think it also varies city by city. I think Philadelphia kind of has like a different set of rules around like masculinity and fashion. Like I always just like dressing up. And then I just kind of like lost my like vigor for it for a long time. And then now I think a lot of it like pandemic, like one of the only things you can do is online shop. Is that bad to say?
No. The pandemic had the opposite for me. I feel like I lost all of my taste during the pandemic and was like, sweatpants it is, you know? So I'm still trying to find who I am sartorially.
It was all aspirational. It was like, when we back outside, I'm gonna hit him with this. I'm gonna hit him with, when we go back outside, I'm gonna hit him with this though. They're not
like
gonna
that.
be ready for it.
You have a catalog just like,
I'm like,
Of looks.
yeah, I'm just like, just wait. It's sweatpants right now, but we about to turn up. So during the pandemic, like I got back into fashion, and now like if I'm on vacation, like my first thing is like, all right, we gotta thrift. Like, what are the thrift spots? I'm asking like the locals and stuff. This was just an eBay find.
This sweater?
This sweater was an eBay find.
I like it.
It's fantastic. Can we just narrate it for our listeners
Oh,
real quick?
for those listening
Yeah.
at home. So it's like a mixed media sweater, and it's
It's
got
audio and visual.
it's a mixed media. I just got it's audio visual. It's got like it's leather on the body, and then it's like I think it says like wool sleeves. And think of it, it's got like Cosby vibes, but then also like
I was gonna say that, but I didn't want to invoke
Cosby.
"You shall not be."
Cosby vibes, but also just like
pre scandal. It's not
Like
giving Cosby.
Coogee.
It's giving Dr. Huxtable,
Yeah.
not Bill Cosby.
Yeah, exactly.
He's giving the respectable
Beautiful.
version.
yes, it's giving Huxtable vibe plus like Biggie like Coogee sweater kind of vibe, I would say.
Yeah, I love it. We've got some blues, some beiges.
I really like earth tones. Like that's big for me. This backdrop is doing it.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
We love it.
Good. We love
Earth
to hear
tones
it.
and jewel tones, but yeah, I've splurged a lot.
We're
on fashion.
representing Jewel and Earth today. If you think about it, jewel tones are also should be earth tones because jewels come from the earth. No, okay.
I'm on board for
Yeah.
this. As someone who mistakes them all the time, I'm just like, come on.
Turquoise and teal, those are earth tones, but they'd be called jewel tones.
Wouldn't every color be an earth tone because they all exist
Hot pink
on
is not.
Earth?
I would say maybe fluorescent, no.
But what about like flamingos?
I don't think I would. Sorry, I'm
I
not
guess
gonna.
they're coral.
I was gonna say
peach.
flamingos are not hot pink.
Truth.
Do you like how like Sarah's like we're gonna fight about it? No,
There's definitely a hot pink flower in Hawaii, and I'm gonna find it and send you a picture.
You're right. I mean, then immediately once I said it, I was like, "What about bioluminescence, ass? That's fluorescent and that's natural."
You don't want to perjure yourself.
Exactly. We're all gonna redact this from the record, right? Anyway, so don't worry about it. Okay, so the next question is that Cleopatra embraced Egyptian customs, even though she was technically Grecian Macedonian. What is something super American you feel like you embrace, or alternatively, what is a Haitian custom that is still like really a part of your life or like a tradition?
Yeah, so this is a great. I was gonna say golf, even though golf is a British, born in Scotland.
I can't tell you.
Yeah.
I just found out that there was something called a bogey recently, so I can't tell you about the origins of golf.
But I think it's also like a very American pastime. Probably more golf courses in America than any other country. I think fair to say. So that's definitely an American hobby that I've picked up. Haitian things that are close to, because you talked about like cleanliness, which was like I so related to because it like, oh man, so many like comedians who like I've taken over their room in the house or apartment and they're just like, would consider filthy.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're just like, yeah.
Well, that's a comedian custom. Is to be reprehensible.
Cleared it all out for you. I'm just like, no. And then like you hire someone to clean it and they're just like, it just isn't.
Yeah.
It just isn't going to be as clean as I want it to be. So I definitely that. I like cooking for myself is like a big thing. And it wasn't until like later in my adulthood that I actually decided that I was going to do it. But that was something like my mom went to culinary school. She's such a great cook. And I think it's a big thing for her. Like she doesn't eat out. To circle back to like the concept of leisure, she's like looking at restaurant prices and just like, why would I pay?
Yeah.
Why would I pay for this when I can make this? So
what's your favorite thing your mom makes?
Wow, damn, that's a great question. There's like this Haitian soup called bouillon. It's like a squash soup. Very good.
Do you make it?
I don't make it.
Okay.
It's on my list for this year to make it, though. I want to.
What's your favorite thing to cook?
I'm very like, I don't know. I just meal prep the same thing every week.
Yeah, it is. It's so sad that our parents made these incredible like ethnic foods for us to come here and make like baked sweet potato with grilled chicken with nothing on it because we have to stay trim.
Yeah, like it's salmon. Now I'll introduce shrimp, rice, and a veggie. And the seasoning is really important. I think that ties it all together. My seasoning from a store that does it. It's not, not like a name brand seasoning, but it's pretty basic.
I love a seasoning. I make my own mixed spice blend that I call Lynn Spice.
Ooh.
And I buy just like all these separate spices and grind them together.
We're really branding you this episode.
Ooh, yeah.
I should say also the best part of Lynn Spice is I used to grind it and now I just make my boyfriend do it.
Nice.
My white boyfriend. So I feel like I've successfully decolonized.
If you want to be my lover, you got to grind my spice up.
I'm starting to make my own spice in that field. Like my mom makes her own spice and like puts it in like Tupperware for the week. So that feels very much like home.
Yes, spice is very immigrant culture.
Do you have a grinder?
I do.
Oh,
yeah.
isn't that great?
Yeah.
Like
Just
a
smashing.
morcateje, like a
I have like an
mortar and
electric
pestle.
I have a mortar and pestle, but I also have like an electric grinder,
Oh,
which
nice.
speeds up the process.
That's
And also like when a little
yeah, very nice.
yes.
It's the tactile nature of it for me.
Yeah.
Let's smash some stuff up.
I used to work at an Indian restaurant, and one time this white woman came in and she goes, "I'm allergic to spice."
All spice.
I'm allergic to
Say
spice.
you don't like
That's
it.
insane.
Why would she walk into an Indian restaurant?
She was with her girlfriends, who clearly all were like, "Ooh, Indian food."
And they dragged her out.
Yeah, and then I was
Yeah.
like, "You can have the bread, I guess." And then she just ate the bread, and she was like, "Actually, I like this." And I was
Oh
like,
my
"Okay,
I'm so glad, Sharon. And now it is time for our segment called Dig Deep. This is where we ask the deep questions. I will ask the first one. She will ask the second. And then you're going to know how this robbery goes. It's like, this is how it's going to go. So you're a TV writer, so you'll actually probably have a lot of insight into this question. Cleopatra was famously portrayed by Liz Taylor in 1963. If your life were a movie or a crossover of two TV shows or films, what would they be and who would play you?
Oh, my life is a blank meets blank.
Yeah. Like you're pitching the log line, basically, of your movie, of your life.
Fascinating. 36 shots of rum meets Catch Me If You Can.
What?
I think you have to explain.
You're gonna have to
those.
explain
Yeah,
both
break
of
that
those.
down.
Break it down. I actually, in my an ass for not knowing 36 Shots of Rum.
I also don't know 36 Shots
No, I
of
mean
Rum.
it's a small French independent movie by Claire Denis. She did you guys know that the astronaut movie with Robert Pattinson?
Yes.
So she directed that. I think that was her first English language.
Got it. Okay.
Movie.
I didn't see it, but I knew that there was a Robert Pattinson astronaut movie.
Esoteric. I love it.
It's a movie about a family that's divided, and so the daughter is getting old. She lives with her dad, and she wants to leave, and the dad's like, they have like a really tight relationship because the mom has died, and it's about like them being at a crossroads, and the daughter's love interest is like leaving he was moving to Paris from like where they're at in France. So it's a real like family drama vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are they a white family?
Black family.
Black family.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's a lot of like Black immigrant in a foreign country vibes.
Oh, wow. That
In
sounds like a good
France?
movie.
In France,
Okay,
yeah.
We should have a little watch party.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
We'll watch
Yay.
separately.
There's humor in it, but it's like
Thank you for
it's,
warning
like,
us.
very-
Just me and Lynn, like popping the popcorn. We're like, let's
Very
go,
sad.
girls. And then we saw.
Crying.
And then Catch Me If You Can. I just feel like, I don't know, maybe more like American Hustle, but just like I do feel like tonally my life is like I'm kind of like a grifter, or like I'm moving in these spaces in Hollywood, and I just feel like I'm like taking like the back door into these spaces. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel like a part. I feel like I'm kind of sneaking my way in.
I also think you're my favorite charlatan of all. No, I'm just kidding. No, I was gonna say I also like feel that way too. I feel like I'm just like, let's see what I can get away with because I clearly don't belong here.
I don't know if I feel like I feel like I'm just like if I
So you're an imposter or else we'll be mad. No,
No,
I'm just kidding.
I feel like my whole strategy is just if I'm here long enough, they can't get rid of me. I'm just cockroaching. I'm just gonna be
We're squatting
here.
it out.
You're trying to
Yeah.
establish residency.
Yeah. So I feel like that's my game plan. I'm just gonna be here for so long. Eventually, they're gonna have to do something about it.
Do you look at your career in that way? Do you look at it as like when I'm 60, that's when I'm gonna have like my best special?
I mean, I don't want to quote my astrologer, but to quote my astrologer, I'm supposed to have a very successful second half life career.
Yeah.
So,
Not enough people think about that.
I mean, look at Michelle Yeoh. Come on.
Yeah, Maria Bamford.
There are a lot of examples of people who are still doing excellent work and continuing to peel back the shallot that is their artistic awakening.
And to be honest, I had to spend the first like 10 years of my life out of college just making money to afford to be able to pursue the arts. So, I can't be famous at 20. I couldn't afford to be successful at 20.
Yeah, me neither. And I'm glad for it.
I do fear for people who are very successful, like extremely early on or very, very young. Can you imagine like always looking back and thinking you peaked at like 10 years old?
Yeah,
You know?
it's scary.
No, and so many people I know, I feel like either feel like they peaked in high school or in college. And I feel like when I was at those ages, I was still like so ashamed of being different. Like people who are like doing improv, like in high school and college, the fact that they were like that comfortable with themselves is astonishing to me.
I agree. I had incredible anxiety and stage fright. And also there's a part of like being an immigrant that is just like, what do I have to do to fit in this space?
Yeah. And like you don't want to do anything weird. Like I think like everyone who was zany in high school, like good for you that you felt like so secure that you could be weird while I was working so hard to be normal.
Yeah, I wasn't rocking the boat at all.
No, me neither. And I remember like in because I was a double major in writing and acting, and it did
You
always.
already knew that.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that.
Sorry.
I just felt like it always felt like the diverse people we were all just kind of like almost like ignored because people were like, I don't know, they just like don't have it like these other people. Like the other people kind of have it. And it's like, why do you think we don't have it? Because like we've just been like hiding for so long.
Yeah, and you haven't been told yes your whole life and just been enabled and like not enabled, encouraged. Your whole life.
No, enabled was actually a good Freudian slip that a lot of these people are delusional and have been enabled.
At my college, they cast a white woman in the role of a kind of geisha type character, and we had 2 Asian people in our program,
God.
and they cast a white girl in a role of a woman, a hijabi wearing
That's insane.
woman. Yeah.
That is very funny. It reminds me of Strangers with Candy when they do like an all-white cast of Raisin in the Sun.
Yeah. A friend of mine said she did West Side Story in like high school or something, and they made all the kids wear self-tanner.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
So getting back to the question though, who would play? Sorry, I just like we could spend the rest of the 30 minutes denouncing Bronze Face. But I thought I would just pivot back to
Yeah, whatever you guys want to do.
That's new merch for us.
Bronze Face. But pivot back to who would play you. It could be a woman, it could be a man or non-binary person. It energetically, like who would play you in the story of your life?
Yeah, I think like Richard Ayoade. Richard Ayoade is a British comedian. He is from the IT Crowd.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I could see that.
I haven't seen that. Was that good? Do I need to watch that?
I haven't seen it either.
Okay.
But that's his most famous.
It's good. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. Yeah. He has like a nerd vibe.
I think he's more.
No.
I think he's a little more neurotic than I am. But you look casting, you gotta get as close.
Also, you
as can
probably
get.
have to be like a heightened version of yourself in whatever this is.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, have y'all answered that for yourselves?
Mine was Never Have I Ever meets 30 Rock.
And the actor.
We discussed Lisa Kudrow in Bronze Face. Bronze Face.
It always all roads lead back
What
to
I
Bronze
love
Face.
about Bronze Face is that there's a plausible deniability of like, we weren't trying to make her look darker. She just was we're contouring and it got out of hand.
I've been watching Mindhunter, the David Fincher show. And David Fincher's work in general, he tends to have like a chartreuse kind of lighting. But there are straight up like episodes where like one actor is yellow and their neck is their regular skin color.
Oh, wow.
And then the person that they're talking to is like, just wearing makeup and is like, it's bizarre.
I gotta say, there's one character on Never Have I Ever where they really, whoever was doing his makeup just did not match his face and skin.
I mean, historically, makeup artists do not do a great job with
people of color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's, no disrespect to anyone who creates that show. It's a wonderful show and I really love it. But I noticed that on that specific show as well, where it's like, oh man, they didn't blend the neck and the face.
I remember when I was working on Actor Age, there was a lot of gratefulness from the cast because we had like basically
people who knew how to do makeup and hair.
Mostly black crew and mostly black cast, and they were just like, they can do it. They can do my skin right. Everyone looked beautiful on the show.
Yeah, you actually know how to light everyone.
Yeah.
I had suppressed this memory, but I won't say what show it was. But I was in a makeup chair. This was like certainly a non-black person doing my makeup, but it was not a white person. And he just goes, you have a big Adam's apple. And I'm just like, oh, you think so? This is what I said. Oh, you think so? I was like, yeah, it's just one of the special things about you. You have great skin too. You're like an Egyptian prince. Which
interesting.
It was quite interesting. But like, sometimes you're just like captive in a chair.
It's so annoying. You're literally captive while somebody scrutinizes / thinks they're complimenting you, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah, and then you have to like, because it was not my show.
Yeah. look, you just described every first date I've been on for most of those. Just like an Egyptian queen. Wow.
Very large Adam's
Wow,
apple.
yeah. And they're always commenting on my Adam's apple, and I hate that. That's what I got all the self-tanner to hide. How about we go to the next question?
Okay, so Cleopatra had this wonderful storied legacy as a scholar, historian, leader. What would you like to be remembered for? What would you like your legacy to be? And what would you like your epitaph to read?
Yeah, so my legacy, I think it's having made like connections with people and being a good friend. I would say like first and foremost, and like a good son to my mom. And then as far as art goes, it's like, yeah, having a connection with someone who's like, I don't know, maybe isn't even born by the time that I die, but they're able to like resonate with my work. I think you're always just trying to like pay it forward and like put something out that's an expression of yourself that other people could relate to. So I guess
along those lines, we haven't really talked about this, but what does your dream career kind of look like?
Yeah, great question. It's a great question. I mean, it's been, I think it like makes it difficult for me a little bit in the industry because it's like, like execs or reps, they want to be able to like crystallize like, okay, you're the guy that does this. Okay, well, if we have something like this, we'll let you know. And yeah, I'm not quite sure. I think it could take
They want you to be a known a known entity.
Yeah.
And they want you to be like, you do this.
You're the unicycle guy. You're the guy that we put in the unicycle movies.
You're the guy who's on the unicycle. He's juggling. He's got a red clown nose. He's got clown makeup. You're the guy who's got a clown hat. You're that guy. You're the clown.
Yeah.
One day you're like, what if I wanted to be a green clown nose? Who will I be then? Will they accept me?
And they're like, no, there's a green clown nose guy. He's 20 years younger. Sorry.
Yeah. And it's a robot. It's AI.
Oh, yeah.
We love him.
Well, we were talking earlier about like how your focus needs to shift between like doing stand-up and writing. And I would like to be in a situation where I can like, all right, 3 months, I'm like doing this independent movie that I wrote and I directed. And then we'll be editing that. Then I'll like do stand-up and like maybe I'll do a special. And then, you know, I'll act in something. Like just having different projects that are exciting to me and being able to like, if I have an idea, being able to do it, I think like that's like the dream. But it's not necessarily like, okay, the moment that I direct this, then I have done it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love that. I feel like I relate to that deeply.
It's such a double-edged sword because it's great to have that kind of range, but it's also, as we were saying, stressful to have so many irons in the fire at all times, and you never quite know, mixed metaphors, you know, things on the burner, all the burners on, and you don't know what's going to boil over at any given moment, and it's hard to know where to put your energy. But
stand-up is really hard to take breaks from too. I feel like I can write a script and then take a long break and then write another script, but stand-up feels like you really have to do it all the time. It's such a like compounding art form where it's like, it really feels to me like the more you do,
more
the
is
more
more
comes back. Well, I feel like if I wrote scripts every single day, that would not be productive.
I think I would just run out of ideas.
Yeah.
And like I would get better structurally, but I just wouldn't have anything to say.
Yeah.
And sometimes I need to take like a week away from a script and then come back and say, I was like, oh, I think I have this idea now. But yeah, I totally agree. And it's frustrating because like I don't want to feel bad for taking a week off of stand-up because there really isn't that much time, but like I will beat myself up.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, welcome to the Beat Yourself Up Club. It's part of our cult. You must beat yourself up. That's the dark underbelly part.
In our school, after you learn Mandarin, we teach you how to beat yourself up.
Your Mandarin's not good enough.
And then finally, what would your epitaph read?
What would my epitaph read? It would be hard for it not to be a quote or something.
It could be a quote.
It could be a quote.
Yeah.
Oh, I was reading this quote before I got here. I think it's Gogol, the Russian author, who was like,
Not to be confused with Google.com.
I think it's Google.
It was just like the website artwork.
I went to Google.com.
Whatever the animation of the day was.
It was the animation of the day. It was like a ridiculous narrator takes a sophisticated reader.
I love that.
But yeah, I like that quote. I think it's a good epitaph.
And that aligns a lot with what you were saying before, where you feel like your material isn't for everyone, sort of thing.
Yeah, just trying to find my people. And then also just like, I don't know, just comedy is very important to me, even though I feel like I have a taste outside of comedy. I like a good art house film from Austria. 2.5 hours, no structure, no editor present. Just roll. But the comedy is so important to me, and so I think that, yeah, I don't want that represented.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us. That's the end of the episode. Can you tell us where can people find you and what would you like to promote?
Yes. Wait, when is this coming out?
We'll never tell you.
Okay, you can find me on Instagram, Ronald Metellus _ Follow me on there. That's probably the best to get updates about like what's happening with me and stand-up.
All right, we will link to those in the show notes. Thank you so much for watching. If you like us, please leave a review, like, rate, subscribe, all that jazz.
It gives us a reason to live. Just kidding. Just kidding.
It's all in your hands, actually. Only you can prevent the forest fire of shame. But until the next time, thanks for joining us. I've been Christy Bonna.
I'm Lynn Molly.
I'm Ronald Metellus.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.